This is fourquartersonline.com, and I'm here with my tag team partner, Coach Cofield, and this is overtime. Normally, we're doing a scoreboard show on Fridays, but man, it is playoff time here in the state of Florida, and we are doing we're trying to do a live reaction for the brackets that just got revealed. Coach, we already saw what was already presented to us about the 1A classification, the rural B bracket, or the play-in tournament, as they're calling it. We just got finished looking at 3A, and I believe we're on right now. I think he is in 3A Region 3. So we're looking at teams out of the Tampa, Southwest Florida area that are making the playoffs. So it looks like, and we'll back it up and go through classes 1 through 3A for you guys. I know there's a lot of there was just a lot of shakeup in the rural A bracket and in class 2A. So right now we're rounding out the bottom part of class 3A region 4, Miami Northwestern, and teams out of South Florida are being revealed right now. But just to back it up, Coach, we saw, a huge matchup in the first round. Looks like the McClay Marauders and the St. John Paul II Panthers are going to be getting that rematch that we talked about.
Yeah, look, that looked like a real exciting thing to do. The Panthers have been rolling.
Yeah.
McClay has been a staple during the whole season. They had a pretty evenly matched season, and I think that would be one to see for the brackets at the beginning of the playoffs. It's kind of funny. Two of the better teams, they playing each other right off at the beginning, but I'm excited about the matchup.
Yeah, it looks like when I saw that game, it looked like John Paul had taken the time to actually get a couple of things straight with their offensive unit, just to be able to establish some rhythm. And they kind of caught McClay flat-footed. But I know for one thing, just looking at the reaction from the players who were really on the McClay sideline, it was complete opposite of John Paul that night, because of the fact that just because of the mere fact that I think that McClay was looking to get that district title outright and just felt like they let some things slip through their hands. On the opposite sidelines, John Paul was not fooled. They felt like they had been preparing with each loss leading up to that game to kind of get things right. So it's going to be a great atmosphere. John Paul will be hosting that game once again. So the Marauders pretty much get another crack at it. And really the pressure this time is on John Paul, because going into that game, I felt like, honestly, the John Paul had everything to prove, and McClay was trying to basically secure their lockup as district champion, but everything went the other way that night. And so now we're going to get a great rematch in this particular game. So now we've got Class 4A Region 1 in the top bracket. St. Augustine's the number 1 seed. They'll be hosting Lake City, Columbia, who is the number 8 seed. Second part of the bracket just got revealed. Pine Forest will be taking a trip to visit Ed White, who was a district champion, if I'm not mistaken. But Pine Forest is the number 4 seed. Then we've got Choctaw, who will be hosting Arnold, and that will be a big, big matchup. And then Escambia will be hosting Riverside, and that will round out the Class 4A Region 1 bracket. So we get a chance to see where Arnold is going, and we get a chance to see where some of our 4A teams are headed as we move forward through this. We're in 4A Region 2 right now, and Coach, looking at everything, a large part of it was just dealing with the fact that we saw that we saw what Arnold was able to do in a great turnaround this season.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Griffin came in there after having a successful season year at Bozeman, after going undefeated and losing in the playoffs. He took some of that same culture and brought it to Arnold with some great coaches on the staff, and turned that program around. Because I think they didn't even win a game last year, and so he comes in there, and now they're talking playoffs with an opportunity to go into the championship. Possible. Anybody that starts off in the playoffs has a chance to win. So congratulations to Arnold.
So now we're in Class 4A Region 3. Again, teams from the Fort Myers, Tampa area are being announced. as we await Class 5A, which will include Lincoln, Niceville, and Mosley. Let me see if I can stop sharing for a minute. Yeah, Coach, I'm going to bring up the presentation screen again. I was trying to see if I could throw up the bracket for Class 1A so we could rewind and talk about that real quick. So we're rounding out region number 4 right now. But
wow.
see if we can take a look at everything as we move back over. But you can see that 1A rural bracket, man, it looks something special. So
Man.
let's jump back into the bracket release here as we announce Class 5A Region 1. So we've got 5A Region 1, and it looks like Lincoln will be hosting Daytona Beach Mainland.
Oh, and that was the team that we talked earlier about that nobody wanted to play because they were steadily improving.
And so Lincoln will draw the Buccaneers out of Daytona Beach Mainland. And then also rounding out that bracket, I think we were looking to see where Mosley would fall. So I'm going to back up just in case we missed it. And so Mosley draws the 3 seed.
Wow.
And they will host Fleming Island. And so, this is kind of where we talked about that shakeup, at the end of the year where, there was just a lot going on in that final week.
Man, they went from number 1 seed to number 3? Is it 3?
Yep. And on the other side of that bracket, for region number 2, Lakeland will be the number 1 seed, followed by number 2, Edgewater. Tampa Bay Tech is the number 3 seed, and then Springstead out of Spring Hill, Florida, and Gaither are 4 and 5 seeds. So you kind of get a chance to see if you can make it out of first couple of rounds. You will be making a trip to Central Florida if you're not on that top line. So it looks like as we get closer to 5A Region 3, Coach, we talked about this earlier just with the whole shakeup from earlier, just in how, a couple of points separated, man, probably some of the best football teams in the north side of the bracket in 5A.
Yeah, it looks like that. You're talking about some great programs having an opportunity to play for a championship once again, and some new ones coming up. And it was kind of bad for Mosley, which was number 1 seed at first, losing to Florida High. I think dropped them to what 3 seed.
Yeah, and for Mosley, I don't know that that's a bad draw. As we get to the bottom side of 5A Region 4, Atlantic Delray Beach is the number 1 seed, followed by Miramar, St. Thomas Aquinas, and then Blanche Ely is the number 3 seed and at the bottom of the bracket. So there's a lot that really, I think could benefit the Dolphins. Looking at how that last loss against Florida, it's crazy how it was so close like that for them. You were a quarter, 12 minutes away from having an undefeated season, wrapping up number 1. But I think what they can probably take away from this is the fact that they can now probably have a better prepared team that can endure the playoffs, because they got a little bit exposed in that fourth quarter. And I definitely know that Coach Whitten is going to get that cleared up.
He better, when you're getting ready for the playoffs. I'm sure they got at least 11 film on 11 games. I'm talking about the preseason all the way to every game, and the other team that's getting ready to play you, they checking everything out. I know when we used to get ready for the playoffs, We had almost every game that other team played, and we did our game planning off of that.
So it's going to be interesting with how everything is shaking out. But I got little clips here. I'm gonna see if I can get these kind of thrown up there on the big board, my other monitor here, so we can take a look at them because 3A looks just as crazy. I mean, when you think about how close, uh, really things were. Gabi, of course, won the district outright, but also in the mix was Wakulla and Swanee. And man, it looks like, just by virtue of just where they fell in the bracket, we get a Gabi Swanee rematch. And I think we can go back to maybe what, week number 4 or week number 5. That game was back and forth.
Right.
And you look at how things really worked out, where the makeup game where Swanee had against Wakulla, like understanding that, Swanee got some key people back, at the end of the season. Look at how pivotal that was, where you have the matchup between Wakulla and Swanee now being played at the end of the year. Of course, Wakulla came out on the winning side of that, but you got to wonder, would there have been a difference had that game been played early in the season?
Yeah, it does matter when you play because everybody goes through something during the season. If you get a team without their best players available, you got a good chance of beating them, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna win in the playoffs, and that has to be scary when these teams have to repeat themselves.
Right. There's a lot that just kind of there's a lot that kind of goes into the whole measure of whether or not a team can be ready or not. We're gonna bring on Lincoln head coach, Coach Tyson, in just a moment. So yeah, it looks like I'm frozen right now. So I'm gonna jump off and jump back on.
Just leave me on, just hanging. Just leave me. Uh, you, Coach. I'm sorry, Mark Adams is usually the moderator in most of these shows, and he just left me hanging. Uh, but it's some great matchups. I got some people sending me comments talking about the Florida High Mariana game. I can't wait to talk about that because I think that's two of the best teams in the tournament. And Mariana is undefeated. Florida High has had a great season. I think they lost only like 2 games, 2 or 3, maybe 3. And having the opportunity to p- play a quality team on the road is going to be a difficult task for Florida High. But it's exciting with the opportunities I mean, to just to be in the tournament and play some quality competition and look like Florida High is on the upswing. They're getting better and better as the season goes on, knocking off a Mosley team that was the number 1 seed in their classification. It is it is it's going to get interesting. This coming up next week when these teams start playing each other. I love it. I love playoff time. It's more intense. It's more exciting about when these teams get together because if you lose, you're out. If you win, you continue. You keep playing, and it is an exciting time for coaches, and it's also stressful. It's very stressful. Uh, Mark, you back yet?
Oh yeah, I'm back
Man, I
on.
was wondering, you had me.
Get stuff fixed, man.
I'm just running my mouth. I'm like, I'm waiting on some feedback, and we were gonna go back over everything you said. I'm
Yeah, let's
interested
go
in
ahead
that
and
Florida High Mariana matchup. Those two of my favorite
that's gonna be
teams.
intense. That is
Dang.
going to be intense. So the
I got one question for you. I hadn't been watching the bracket. What classification is Niceville?
Niceville is 5A with Mosley and
I didn't see them. I didn't see that in the
yeah, they're the number. We'll get to it. They're the number 2 seed. So hopefully in
two.
a minute
Wait a
we'll.
minute. Hold up. They're number 2,
I believe so.
and then they're in the same district with Mosley?
Yeah, let's start with
Okay,
let
I'm
me see
just
if I can
kind of
get to it
questions.
because I think I have 3A pulled up right now. So let's go ahead and talk about what we have going on in. So yeah, Niceville is the number one seed. So
What?
yeah, Niceville is the number one seed.
H- How is that possible?
According to the final rankings, they took the top spot. So,
It,
but we can
wait,
talk about it right now, though.
it makes sense. They're over a team that beat them. Uh, oh man.
So let's go ahead and pull up that bracket right there. Like you can see, there's not, um, it's not really a whole lot to it. And honestly, the way the points broke down, these teams were within like I don't know, like a hundredth of a point within each other. Both Lincoln, uh, Niceville and Mosley were like inches away from each other. So it could have really gone either way. But looking at how
But it don't make sense, Mark. I beat
no, it
you,
doesn't.
and
It
you
doesn't.
punish. I'm getting punished if I have to face you in the playoff. I got to go on the road.
Right.
Is that possible? Is that it? Because
I
I
look at
know.
it like this: the ranking system is not favorable. You nullify a district champion, in my opinion. You don't give the district champion. You and I agree. Yeah, you want to make sure they have a home game, but seeding matters too.
Yeah,
So I feel like it's a system that it'll all shape. At least for the teams in this area, I think it'll work itself out in the end. But positioning is everything. If you're talking about a swing between a 2 seed and a 5 seed, that could mean the difference between you having to ride 100 miles down the road as opposed to hosting a home game. So there's a lot of implications that go into it. I don't know that it's the best system, but it does not lend itself to what is really valuable, which is winning. Like you said earlier, head-to-head wins don't seem to count as much.
and in my opinion, that should be if it came between us and Mosley. If I'm Niceville and Mosley, it look like Mosley should be at the top over them with a higher seed, but it seemed like it doesn't matter. Now, understanding the playoffs, do you have to uh, let's say you get a home game on the first in the first round? Does that matter the rest of the playoffs? Just that first round.
So, to my understanding, the bracket is set until the regional final. So, if you're on top line here, such as Niceville, so one seeds 1 through in this particular bracket, because it flips depending on what class you're in. So top line for class 5A. So the top 4 seeds, the 4 district champions, are on the top line and will continue to get home games until the regional champion is determined, or higher seed beats a lower seed. So, for example, being the number 3 seed actually counts because Mosley, if they win, and if Lincoln wins, that will be a heck of a game, but it will be another road trip for the Dolphins. So, considering that Niceville, the head-to-head win between Mosley, like going back to Juke, what he said earlier in the week, strength of schedule, man, is everything. So it seems to have a huge implication on whether or not you end up just falling one spot or like Mosley did 2 spots. And that makes a difference because, in my opinion, looking at the style of play, the head-to-head win, I totally understand dropping the game at the end, but head-to-head wins should count for a lot more. And I don't know if that means that Lincoln jumps up higher because they finished the season on a high note. Everybody finished the season on a win except for Mosley. So to me, it just is more so about just the way that the seeding process should be given a little bit more weight in terms of like, did you beat somebody head to head on you know just at some point during the regular season?
I got a problem. If I know they agreed on this format, but it just seems it's a fault. It's a fault. Having a team seated higher than you that you beat seems to be somewhat unfair because it will come down to the end. If you got a bracket, if I got to play Mosley gets in and they have to face Niceville, they go on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
that's not
this
fair.
is what makes it difficult because it's the first round is like everybody's, or at least the top four seeds. Okay, we're hosting. Where it gets dicey is if you win that opening round. Like, okay, now you got a bus ride, for your second round game. Which arguably, I would say, man, second round games are so crucial when you've got a team that's capable of making it to a second two state championship game. I feel
True.
like there's just such a, uh, you know, we got, so yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we got Coach Tyson, head coach of the Lincoln Trojans, here in the waiting room. We're gonna go ahead and bring him on.
Hey,
Hey,
how you doing? I'm sorry.
Daddy.
we appreciate it. I know you enjoying that rest and catching up with the family. I know we got another coach out there that went 10-0. He spent some quality time with the wife and kids. So I hope you all enjoyed the bonus week.
Oh yeah,
What's
trying to
up,
get
Coach?
some free time. What's good with you?
What's happening?
But
Are you excited about this group coming into the playoffs? I mean, do you have any situations with the brackets? I have a
Um,
problem with it, but I mean, I can hear one.
yeah, it is what it is. I think they did a good job trying to set it up. I think strength of schedule, and I would really like to see what was the final, points because I think it was really close between us and Niceville. I'm old school, so Niceville beat us. It was a close game, 38-35, but they get the number one seed. I'm fine with that. We played three, looking at the brackets, we played three number one seeds. I think that's developed a lot of character for us. We talk about grit a lot, so now being able to match up against Mainland, that's a defending state champion, and then Mosley, and then Niceville again. It just really kind of goes back to what we built throughout the season. I like our guys are really tough on each other. We compete every day in practice, so why not take a road that most people might be nervous about?
But what do you think about the? I got a problem with Niceville lost to Mosley, but Mosley is down in what is it, 3 seed mark? Is it?
yeah,
Uh,
And I mean, seems a bit unfair in the seating. If I beat you head to head, and it was a double, wasn't a double digit victory, and they don't get that top seed. I don't know. It seems like that's a problem.
the issue, I think, and I don't think it's a Florida High School Association issue. It's just part of the game. The strength of schedule is really tough when you talk about high school football because when you look at college, certain programs are always going to be top programs, but in
right.
high school, stuff changes every season. So when we schedule teams, in our understanding, we think they're going to be a good program, a good team. But again, stuff happens. A lot of kids transfer to different programs, transfer out, and you might think, okay, I'm scheduling a program that's going to help my points, and then all of a sudden they're a 3-7 team, or and now that's hurting me. So that's the really hard part when you come to scheduling teams who can really help you when it comes to strength of schedule. And I think Mosley was really hurt by their strength of schedule because a lot of the teams on there they played were under 500.
Yeah.
Wow.
We talked about that with Coach Cooper down in Franklin County, where he was just like, yeah, the backside of my schedule, man, these teams, it's totally different than the first half of my schedule where nobody was really over 500 like you were talking about. But given in the fact that the way the points broke down, like you guys were like almost within like a single point of each other in that final rankings going into like week 10. So it's like you look at when you got a Florida High or somebody that's going to play you tough at the end of the year, do you think that really Do you think that really kind of affects things in that way as far as creating your schedule, knowing that you're going to play a tough team to round out week number 11?
I think you really got to look at scheduling in general, especially when you're looking at your district. Because, for us, we have a small district with 3 teams. So we've got to go out and find some really tough teams to play that can boost our strength of schedule. And in the past, a lot of schools would avoid playing tough teams. And I think it's really showed in the last 2 years that you have to play a competitive schedule or it's going to hurt you in the long run.
Yeah. Coach, let's go ahead and talk about just looking at the matchup. You guys really played Niceville very tough, especially in the second half. I think the defense figured out some things going down the stretch. You guys draw, of course, the home matchup against Mainland, who right now looks somewhat similar as far as like what they do on the ground, and especially how they've been able to kind of put some things together in the back half of the season. You guys have really made it a staple just on your defense. Like, you guys have been very dominant. What are some of the things that you guys are going to try and key in on as you get ready to take on Mainland?
The big thing, just because with this bye week, we've looked at every team possible, and Mainland has done a good job retooling, getting stronger as the season's gone on. They have a really strong defense that does a nice amount of stuff on defense, being odd, and they play some even, and they play some quarters and different stuff. That gives a lot of teams issues. So having a extra week to kind of look at them and break down what they do. I think same thing with us. We bring a lot on defense to a game in a game plan, and that's tough. Their offense is a spread offense, which we see a lot of. So I think it'll start in the trenches with their defense and our defense, but I think we have some real playmakers on offense that can break the game open for us.
Coach, did you just looking at the way you guys finished the year, did you have, or I guess looking at the way you guys have played and improved going down the stretch, did you guys have in mind kind of where you guys kind of just thinking about how the bracket was going to be revealed? Did you kind of start thinking that maybe we might be a 2 seed or a 3 seed or a 1 seed somewhere in there?
We looked at I think as a coach, you look at every possibility and start preparing for all those possibilities. We could have been a 1, a 2, or a 3. 1, 2, and 3, like you said, going into last week were, point something away, from each other. So we took the time to look at everybody and try to figure out what was our strength, what was our initial game plans would be for each team. And I think the way we ended the season with the momentum we have, our offense kind of clicking, our tempo is really giving people problems. And Christian Sims is playing at such a high level over the last 3 games. We're really excited just going into the playoffs.
Hey, Coach, when you're getting ready for the playoffs, you said you looked at film. Did y'all practice any later on this week or whatever? Did y'all did a lot of walkthroughs or what you expected? I'm just asking.
No, that's a great question. Well, Monday we started off taking the team bowling. Our leaders from last year, when we sat down and did exit interviews, they felt like we needed to do more team building exercises to bring our team together. So this year we've done a cookout. We've done several different activities, took them to the movies, and we found that it was an opportunity to take them bowling, just so they can be around each other and it's not just football. And, they really enjoyed it. Some guys had never bowled before, which was shocking. Some guys brought their own balls, and shoes and everything. So it was a good time. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we just really focused on us. We got after each other. We kind of tightened up little mistakes we had on offense, defense, and special teams, and just had really competitive practices. Some people that came out said, "Man, y'all getting after it," and that's how we want to do. We want to iron sharpens iron and get after each other. And now that we kind of know who we're facing clearly, we can kind of home into our game plans.
When since you've been around for a minute, ha- and, and
Yeah,
your
I used
and
to
your
coach with you, so
yeah, so yeah, I know you've been around. If that's the case, Coach, when you get been through the playoff process, what have you learned from your past experiences that you interject in this group coming up? Because this is, I don't know, how long you been coaching? About 130 years? What, 20?
this is what my 21st year. So,
Wow.
really, to me, you build your preparation through the season, and I think, like I said, we've talked about grit because in the playoffs you're playing good teams, and they're gonna make plays. And how do we handle those situations? I think we really grew through the Niceville game because realistically we're losing 31-7,
Mhm.
and to come
Yeah.
back and take the
Comeback
lead,
was amazing to watch.
yeah, and I think that was like the turning point of our season. Even though we didn't get the victory, I think everybody then believed in the team, and they fought and they showed grit. And I think that's kind of the stuff that you're gonna have. You're gonna have it where a team takes a lead, you fall behind or you get up and they come back. It's gonna be heavyweight battles. And how do you handle those situations? If you kind of in those cakewalks and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a dogfight, now you're not used to that. Now people are playing out of structure and doing their own things. That's what hurts you in the playoffs.
Mm.
Wow. Wow.
Well, Coach, the way you guys bounced back against previously unbeaten Ugali kind of showed, kind of the maturity of the team because it is definitely a long season, but looking at some of the type of opponents that you all have played going into Georgia, coming back out with a win, looks like you guys are battle tested and ready for the playoffs. What's the energy like among your players right now?
It's funny because they're excited. My phone is going crazy right now because my players are texting me, "Hey, are y'all gonna release the film so we can
Right.
start, prepping?" So the fact that they understand the process and now they're hitting me up, because we had everybody's film, thank God. So now we will release some of the scout film we have because we didn't want everybody looking at the wrong opponent. So now
Right.
we can get a lock in on what we're looking at and who we're looking at. So the fact that I've gotten 6 text messages already about Coach, when you gonna drop the film, lets me know that they're kind of locked in.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Coach, man, we appreciate you taking out a few minutes after what has been a very long season, especially on this crucial day off for you. Hope you guys get a chance to enjoy it. Good luck to you guys going into next week. We'll definitely be watching and making sure, if anything, that we kind of get a handle on how everything's working in this new system. So this has been fun to watch, but we appreciate your time, and we'll catch up with you guys next week.
All right,
Thank
Coach.
you for y'all support. Thank you for always, all the hard work y'all put in. It really helps our exposure.
No problem, Coach. We appreciate it. We'll catch you guys on next Friday.
All right, now. Bye-bye.
Later.
Yeah, that was Coach Tyson of the Lincoln Trojans, man. When you look at how, everything kind of came together for them right after that tough Niceville loss, because they were down earlier in that game, and they were able to put together a great comeback effort. Even though they came out on losing end, they were really close in that ball game. So,
He
but
came
Coach,
from good stock, man. He had a great beginning working with some veteran coaches back in the day.
all right, let's see if we could jump over to different bracket. So now we're going to take a look at the Class 1A bracket, and we had a chance to see Providence earlier in the season. We had a chance to look at them and really to kind of watch them play against a John Paul team who was still figuring things out. But Providence looked pretty tough. They had a great ground game. Looking at where you see this McClay John Paul matchup, this rematch, this is going to be the game. I think McClay really, was just their reaction. They felt really like they let one go, and John Paul was the total opposite. They were like, "Nah, we plan for this. We prep for this. We feel like we know our opponent." And for the last 3 seasons, it's almost been like John Paul has just had McClay's number. And so, this is going to be this. I think there's going to be a lot of emotion in this game. I expect to see a lot of hard hitting. I know both coaches are really going to be looking at and just trying to take advantage on anything they may have saw in the last matchup. Not to mention how McClay played Taylor County very well. So I know looking at John Paul, they have a lot of momentum. The Rickards win. Moving on through the remainder of the season, I think they lost to a very tough Pensacola Catholic team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, at the end of the season.
Right. But they even played Catholic a lot closer than what everyone expected. So I think both teams have improved going down the stretch. It's just a matter of who's going to be able to finish out this game, because I expect this one to go to the wire.
Mark, you remember earlier you thought the pressure was on McClay. I think the pressure is on John Paul, because when you beat a team one time, you got to face them again. Usually, you don't make a change if you win. If you lose, you're gonna come back with different things. You're not gonna run the same stuff that didn't work in the first game. So, John Paul got to look out for some things they might not have expected looking at the film, because you know how everybody's gonna react. And I think it should. I love this matchup because it. First of all, John Paul could insert dominance, and McClay can get revenge. And so you have two sides of the same coin going into the playoffs. These guys have an awesome program. I love the way John Paul has come back this season, having all kinds of. They beat some quality football teams. They beat Rickards. They only lost to Wakulla by a touchdown. So you're talking about a great combination of programs doing it. McClay plays, doesn't matter. They go on the road and play anybody. So
right.
I'm just looking forward to these guys hooking up. And I don't know where we're gonna be, if we're gonna be what game we're gonna see, but the matchups are great.
Yeah, it's one of those where I just appreciate the fact that we're getting 2 of the area's best right here in the first round. That's going to be crucial right there. Also taking a look at just how the complexities of both teams' seasons. McClay picked up some really tough wins this year. They've been playing. Man, when you look at Bashir's and their quarterback coach, George Grant, they've been on the same page all season. On the opposite side, you got G5, and you got a really just like playmaker by committee by John Paul. They've been able to put together. What I appreciate is that they just find a way to sustain drives. They just find a way to keep marching down the field and taking advantage of big plays. So 2 veteran quarterbacks going. This is Monday Night Football kind of matchup right here. This is primetime matchup. So I expect to just see these 2 teams really go at it. I think for the duration, I think you're going to get 48 minutes of just each team giving you the best that they have on each side of the ball. I think it's going to be a close one at that. We'll definitely get together next Wednesday on the Extra Point podcast and make our picks. But, man, this is going to be a big matchup. So I'm looking forward to this one. Meanwhile, on the other side of that bracket, when the winner of this game will either have to make a trip to, more than likely will have to make a trip to Jacksonville to take on Trinity Christian. My prediction, Trinity Christian will be hosting PK Young, but the Blue Wave, I think, only has maybe 3 or 4 wins this season. So just the weirdness of the brackets is that McClay is the 3 seed, John Paul is the 6 seed, but John Paul is the district champion, so they host. And in the ideal world, I think it would be more so you probably would have seen something closer to McClay taking on University Christian as a different seed, but that's just how it works out. And I think it's really for the best for both teams, though.
Yeah, this is the world we live in now with the way they do the brackets, and going by strength of schedule more than anything, placing these teams with different opponents. Uh, the scary thing would be, like we had talked earlier, um, early in the last, what was it? That was this week. Yeah. We
Yep.
talked about Providence, John Paul having an opportunity to play Providence again. And that if they beat McClay, and that's not a guarantee.
No, not at all. And there's for me there's more of a just the fact that that is the matchup that we wanted to see, but is the system working as it should? That's kind of iffy. So let's go ahead and talk about let's see if we can go ahead and talk about class 4A. See if I can pull that one up. So in 4A, we have St. Augustine at the top line. They are the number 1 seed, but right around number 7, you have Arnold. And then creeping in right behind them was Columbia Lake City, and they leapfrog Rickards. And it just kind of shows you how close the Raiders were. They were right there at number 8 the previous week going into the bonus. And that season-ending loss to Lincoln just really and understanding that the Raiders definitely had their shots, but taking their places, Lake City, Columbia, who went out with a bang, and they're in at number 8, but they draw a tall order, having to hit the road and go down to play St. Augustine. That's going to be a game. I don't doubt that Columbia will have some spots in here to be able to, it's the playoffs, anything can happen, but St. Augustine has been playing like top tier ball right now. So this is, I believe it's a rematch, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to pull it up on Max Preps, but I believe that Choctaw and Arnold is a rematch. So let me see if I can just double down and make sure.
Mark that with Ricketts not making the playoffs. It was the Arnold game where they lost by 2 points and had a lead, and had Arnold came back and won. It more than likely that cost them the opportunity to play in the tournament. Close, these games are close going by these points, and you have an idea. We kind of figured that with Columbia at the end of the season, we'll probably leapfrog the Raiders and get into the tournament. It ain't over till it's over.
Yeah. And just to look at the schedule, yeah, that was a 42-19 loss in week number 7 for the Marlins. So again, anytime you have to play a team twice, Coach, you already talked about it. It's not going to be the same animal like it was before, and the pressure does flip to the team that won the first round, because now you got to do it again. So let me see if we can pull up the other brackets here. Had a chance to talk about Class 1A, just leapfrog into Class 4A. Talked about 5A with Lincoln. All right, let's jump back down to one of my favorite brackets, because I've been waiting on this one. This is Class 2A, featuring the Gaston County Jaguars in at number 1. And man, the way that just the phenomenal job that Coach Ellington has done with this team. They're a hodgepodge of like transfers, homegrowns, you name it, it is what it is. But getting those guys on the same page can be difficult. And that, to be able to pull something like that off in what is arguably one of the better turnarounds in the area, you have to give credit where credit is due. And that's I think if it weren't for, just a letdown in the second half at Coffee County, Gaston County could be undefeated. They went toe-to-toe with Venice in the preseason. And, that game, I think they showcased a lot. Had a chance to see them up close. I think probably one of their best wins on the season is when they went into Chattanooga to play McCallie earlier in the year. They jumped out to a big lead. Then they were trailing late and found just the team kind of found enough resiliency to come back and get the win. So they've been in all kinds of weather together, and I think that this is the team that's going to be the team to beat. I'm going to go ahead and call it now. I look for them to be in the Villages. The way that they've been playing, I think they are one of the top contenders in the state right now.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I think I saw at least 3 or 4 games that they played, and they dominate when they play. I saw the Coffee County game. They had 2 or 3 mistakes that cost them. They gave up 2 big runs by Coffee County because at halftime they were leading, and then they came back. Coffee County took the lead in the second half by some big runs, but some by the 2 running backs they had. So uh, this bracket alone is pretty much 4 quarters online. Most of the teams are the teams we cover on the regular, all
Yeah,
going all the way.
when you look at it to this area's testament, let's just break it down by numbers. We covered 40 something schools across, going all the way back from Swanee all the way back to Panama City area and in the Panhandle. And like, to say that like out of this area across the region, you had what I think we're close to 28 teams in the playoffs.
Wow, that's a lot.
And but that really is a testament to the brand of football. Like there could have been even more when you think about it. Rickers was this close to getting in. There were a couple of teams that were still on the bubble, so that could have been 30 plus teams in the playoffs from across this little stretch of I-10. So to me, it's just more so like, hey, it's cranking up the volume on the brand of football in this area, because it rivals. And you look at the number of signees. I know I talk about this a lot, but the number of signees that come out of this area. So just trying to make sure, we know the bigger cities in Florida get a lot of spotlight shined on them, but this area is just as deserving. So, but yeah, this bracket here, looking at how we talked about just the way that Gaston County has been playing, but we definitely got to talk about Florida High. The Seminoles have had a great second half of the season this year, knocked off the top-ranked team in Class 5A, Region 1 in Mosley, and, just kind of ended the year on a high note, played Gaston County fairly tough through 3 quarters before the Jags pulled away and shut the door. But, this is a vastly improved Seminoles team that I saw, where the strength of this team is their defensive front, in my opinion. And then they just all of a sudden they discovered a monster ground game against a very good team.
Yeah, it looks like that, but they got a tough matchup going against an undefeated Mariana team, with one of the top running backs, not in the state but in the country. And and I'm just interested. I would love to see what Coach Harvey at Florida High has set up to play against Mariana. They have some very good coaches at Florida High, and I'm sure they have a game plan. I would love to be there to see that game. It seemed like a great matchup. You're talking about a team with a solid defense and pretty good offense against one of the best running teams that I've seen all year long. It should be a very exciting matchup.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes it, so intriguing is that, Mariana has the best ground game that we've seen in a while. And that's just saying a lot, because what they've been able to do between Clemens and Mays at quarterback, they've been able to kind of dominate. And it's one of those things where you look at how when you look at how their offensive unit moves, especially the offensive line, they're blocking downfield. They do all those little things that just kind of, that are so crucial into turning a 10-yard gain into a 20 or 30-yard gain, or potentially a touchdown. They do those things. And when you look at what we saw with Florida High in a defense that is basically, they are pinning their ears back and they are coming after you, this is going to be such an intriguing matchup, because I think both coaches right now are looking at, who do we need to block? Who do we need to find? Who do we need to get in front of? And so I expect to see somewhat of a chess match between the guys in the trenches for the first, few minutes of the game. We're not used to seeing Mariana not jump out to a big lead. I don't know that they played a defense like Florida Highs. I don't know that Florida Highs faced a ground game that was this, strong, but they have gone up against Gaston County and Mosley. So it's good to me. It's going to be who's more battle tested.
Yeah, we're gonna see, and we should know pretty early how this game how it's going to when it starts off. What is the game plan of Florida High stopping Clemens, and what is their game plan offensively against? Because we talk about Mariana's running attack, but really don't talk about their defense. Uh, you can't win 10 games with a scrub defense. You got to have solid guys on both sides of the ball and in the trenches. And it seems like they are the team that continuously every week I watch. We can go back and watch some of the games. This team is exceptional, and they do a great job because I think a couple 3 years ago they were one of the worst teams in the area, and
Yeah.
now they're one of the best. And what is the seeding is number 2 overall in their
Yeah. To
so
me, it's one of those where you look at how just man, we saw and it goes in cycles like this all the time, but you can have a senior heavy team and then they graduate. And you young guys got to grow up, and they kind of took their lumps over the past couple of seasons, and then now they've got a senior heavy team that has a ton of experience, and it's just paying off dividends for them right now. But yeah, Mariana undefeated will be hosting Florida High, who's on an uptick right now, and I think the Seminoles finished the season 8-2, if I'm not mistaken. But looking at the remainder of the bracket, we've got Walton taking a tough trip out to Pensacola Catholic, which is a rematch, by the way. It was a tough loss at first, but again, we talked about how this works. You get to see a team for the second time. What would you do differently? So I definitely think that the Walton Braves will be looking at that John Paul II tape, because John Paul threw the ball. They were able to kind of sustain some running drives, but they threw the ball a lot. And we know that Walton throws the ball. So it's just be a matter of can Bettenhausen get into a rhythm, but they could pull off the upset, because I think that, going out there the first time, it was a tall order. But if they can get a few things kind of learn from that first go round, they'll have a chance. At the bottom side of that bracket, we have the Taylor County Bulldogs, and they'll be making the trip out to Jacksonville to take on Bowles. And that'll be a tall order for the Bulldogs. But again, you can't say enough about Coach Braswell and what they've done. This is an amazing turnaround with this program. We did not expect Taylor County to be in this position at the end of the year. Normally when Coach comes in, there's just a lot to, try to tie together, and look at how depleted that roster was and where they were at a year ago. This is an amazing turnaround story. So hats off to the Bulldogs for getting back into playoff form. They're a contender again. And anytime we got more contenders, it's just better for football here in the North Florida area.
Well, Mark, what's even more exceptional is the idea of a city like Taylor Perry, when they've been hit by tornadoes, they've been hit by a hurricane this year, floods, and the community seems to get around the program, and these guys are playing exceptional ball, because when your home front is struggling, it's hard to think about football when you got all kind of issues. And this has been a rough year for the city of Perry, and these guys are making the playoffs after having 2 or 3 seasons of struggles is something special. I can't say enough about the staff there, and them coming back and winning and having a winning season is exceptional.
Yeah. So that'll do it for your Class 2A bracket. Let's bump up one more class. We'll talk about the 3A bracket. And I'll get that pulled up in just a second. In 3A, we've got, a heck of a shakeup, especially when you take a look at how things just kind of shook out at the end between Wakulla and Swanee. We're going to get another rematch. There we go. All right, so now we have at the top line of the bracket, we already talked about Reigns
Wow.
being at the top side of that. And Reigns went undefeated on the year, 9-0. They will be taking on Bay, and Bay's a district champion.
They got it.
They draw what is essentially the 8th seed as a district champion. And correct me if I'm wrong. I thought if you were district champion, you should host.
Maybe there we go with the seating issue.
Yeah.
In the past, a while back, they didn't do that. They had it already set. Home teams get the opening. They get the district champs get the home field first round. Second round, it shakes up a little bit. Best.
It makes the district championship feel like, well, what was that for? What was
my reward is going to the number one team in the region. Reigns is one of the toughest places to step into to play a football game. They don't lose many games over history. I forgot how many state titles they've won in the past few years, but that is not a great draw for Bay High.
Yeah. This team really, I think they improved quite a bit going down the stretch over the last 4 games. But winning your district after the way they started the season was just kind of like, to me, I think that was an exclamation point on the whole thing. It's like they figured out a way, to win the games they needed to win. And I think that's the thing that bothers me. The playoffs is no different. If you somehow get into the playoffs, however it is, and you win these games, you are deserving to play for a title because you beat the teams you're supposed to beat. So it's a little weird how that works out. But on the other side of that bracket is Wakulla, and they will be hosting Menendez out of St. Augustine. On the opposite side of that bracket, Gabi draws the number 2. Excuse me. Let me make sure I got that. Gabi draws the number 2 seed, and they'll be hosting Swanee in a rematch. And the Bulldogs are much improved. Looking at how they really turned their season around, winning out the last 4 of the last 5. Then the way Gabi's been playing, Cougars been pretty consistent, on the back end. Both teams ended the season on a loss, with Swanee dropping one to Wakulla. Close game. Gabi also dropped one to Dothan in a close game. But I think Coach Holston, he talked about how proud he was of this group and everything that they had done. So on the other side of that bracket, we have Baker County. They will be making a trip to Bishop Kenny out of Jacksonville. So, yeah, 3A looks pretty, I would say, on par. I feel like that one kind of is accurate. We see the teams that did what they had to do. I do feel like Bay should be hosting the game because they're a district champion, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you do all that work during the season, and your goal is to win your district, and you're rewarded with a trip to one of the toughest places in the state of Florida to win a football game. That you don't at least get a home game. They start the playoffs off, which I thought that, like you said earlier, I thought that was the whole point. And maybe they go by the seedings more than they go by what should be, right. Teams that didn't win a district not hosting the game. That seems a bit unfair.
Yeah, it does. I feel like there should just be a little bit more emphasis on the things that, winning should still be winning at the end of the day. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Let's go ahead and talk about the B bracket first, or the play-in tournament as they're calling it now. I feel like they just tried to zhuzh up the name. We know what it is. So yeah, let's go ahead and pull up the B bracket, which, for the rural teams who did not make the top 20 as the rule states. And there we have the B bracket. We have Baker. They get a first round bye. Trenton and Sneeze will face off in seeds number 8 and 9. Jefferson County gets a bye, which, great Jefferson County, like, this was unexpected. We did not expect to see the Tigers here at the beginning of the season, but this has been one of the great turnarounds, program turnarounds in this area. Dixie County hosts Wewa Hitchcock. Excuse me, Dixie County they will host Wewa Hitchcock. Port St. Joe gets a bye. Franklin County, how about the Seahawks? They get a first round bye in the B bracket. This is the
Wow, we were wondering about
tournament.
that.
Yeah, this is
Can
the
you-
optional playing tournament. So they fell to essentially number 23. Port St. Joe is number 22, and Jefferson County is essentially number 24 in the rural top 25 rankings. So this is gonna be fun. Let's just call it what it is. I know that there's not. I think the championship game, I believe they announced that it'll be held in the villages. So, before that, I think we heard that there wasn't going to be a championship game for this. But, if so, man, hats off to the FHSA for making that right. But this will be a fun tournament. I do think that it'll be very interesting, given the fact that we've seen quite a few of these teams play. Looking at where Franklin County is and Jefferson County, these are like, man, these programs were 0-10 last year, respectively. And to watch both of them kind of emerge and kind of take their place back into being competitive. And really, we've never seen, this is brand new territory for Franklin County. And Coach Cooper definitely has been, very vocal about what are the the histories of the program and where we've never been before. This is brand new territory. So hats off to both of those teams for getting this far. I think Port St. Joe is arguably the most dangerous of all of the teams in this bracket. I think they have the potential to really, really run the table here.
Yeah.
Got head-to-head wins over both Franklin and Jefferson County.
They lost a tough one last night. Tough game, 13-9 to Bluntstown, which is a very good football team. And getting an opportunity to sort of right the ship. I think they ended the season with 5-5. They were 5. They were a little bit behind the 8 ball earlier in the season, and they started going on a win streak.
Yeah.
So look for them to make a lot of noise in this. And this tournament, the B bracket, will help a team get ready for, I think, look forward to next year and continuing to get to play more games, getting younger guys opportunities to play. You're trying to win, but the more games you play, I think it's better for your program. And the kids got something to look forward to. You playing for a championship.
Yeah.
No matter what the bracket is.
That means a lot.
Because you're a champion of something. You play a whole season and you're still playing for something that counts.
Right. Now let's go ahead and pull up the A bracket. And this was one that was arguably very close too, because when you look at and let me see if I can move this over to my other screen, get this pulled up so we can take a look at it. When you look at what a lot of teams that were, really just kind of on the brink there for a minute, and we'll get a chance to talk about one team in particular that really just, I think, absolutely deserves to be here, but is an absolute surprise. I think, and just looking at the way this bracket looks, you got Hawthorne at the number 1 seed, Cottondale at number 8. They draw Lafayette out of and Coach I think Coach Edwards' group out of Mayo, and then I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. I'm struggling to see.
Man.
Then we got Madison County hosting Moorhaven. Osceola Christian 10-0 gets Bluntstown. That's going to be a game. Union County takes on Holmes, and then at the bottom, the Chipley Tigers. Get this now, they got to go down to Pahokee and play a game.
Dang, that's a lot. That's a heck of a ride, man. I remember in 2006, 2005, I think, in the state championship in 1B at the time. Graceville had to play all the way. They had to drive all the way to Miami to play a football game, and that's a heck of a ride to
Hmm.
go play in state
Yeah.
to play a game
A
of
first
sport.
round game should not
Yeah,
be that far. I think
yeah.
you
Well, it's been the way with these new systems they have. It makes it, you know me. I guess I'm complaining too.
I do think that consideration should be taken for the 1A because these are schools that do not have most of these schools do not have the same budgets as a 5A or 4A school. Like, so I do think that travel needs to be taken into consideration. And this is one where it's nice to have seating when it works, but for this one, this yeah, the seating does nobody any justice here, especially when you have Chipley having to go all the way down around the other side of Lake Okeechobee to play
Mm.
Pahokee. Uh, again, that's an interesting matchup for the Tigers, but again, you got to just look at the travel distance and seeing how that's working. And it just, it doesn't look like it's the kind of thing that should exist when we have better ways to work this out. So
I'm sure that neither one of those teams in those brackets would trade their place with the team in B bracket. Playing for the championship is all you want. So you'll figure some. Schools will figure some kind of way to get to make that trip, and financial. Usually, the communities get together, and they help those programs raise money. I mean, it is going to be. It's a Chipley to
yeah, that's gonna
okay,
be crazy.
God.
But that'll do it for all the brackets. We appreciate Coach Tyson joining us. Always good to talk to him, getting a chance to preview the Lincoln Trojans and everything that they've done this season. That's going to be that's going to be a fun team to watch during the playoffs. Coach, we got some great matchups. We'll have to we'll have this all broken down on the Extra Point podcast on Wednesday nights on all of our channels. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about each team and kind of go over keys to victory. We'll get a chance to do some scouting, talk about potential matchups. But this has been a lot of fun. So, man, the playoff brackets are set. We've got a great kind of slate for round one. We got some big games. So I'm looking forward to how next week is going to shape up. But I'm Mark Adams, my tag team partner, Coach Cofield. We'll catch everybody on the Extra Point on